very last problem set in Unit 9, Stabilization Policies. And so we're going to take a look at FRQ Prep 3 here. That should get us, I think, through the end of this unit. Oh, there's actually a fourth one. I take it back. I'll go ahead and do the fourth one as well. So here we have FRQ Prep 3, the second to last one. Assume the U.S. economy is operating at full employment output and the government has a balanced budget. Okay. A drop in consumer confidence reduces consumption spending, causing the economy to enter a recession. Using a correctly labeled graph of the short-run Phillips curve, show the effect of the decrease in consumption spending. Label initial as A and new as B. So let's go ahead and start with that Phillips curve. So Phillips curve, if you remember, is going to have unemployment percent and price level percent. And it only asks for that short-run Phillips curve, so we can go ahead and just do that. We could have a long-run Phillips curve. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and draw the long run because it won't hurt us to have that on there, the long-run Phillips curve. Label the initial as A and the new as B. So the initial is in the equilibrium, A, and then we enter a recession, B. Now it says part B, what's the impact of the recession on the federal budget? Explain. So we would typically say that the budget enters deficit or moves to deficit, enters a deficit. Now, why would that happen, right? That's an important question to be able to answer. It's because taxes decrease and spending automatically increases, right? You remember we have these automatic stabilizers, automatically increases. Things like unemployment insurance and food stamps, programs that people qualify for during recessions because they've lost their jobs. And so tax revenues would go down, government spending would automatically rise. Now part C says, assume that the current real GDP falls below the full employment by 500 and the MPC is 0.8. Calculate the minimum increase in government spending that could bring about full employment. Okay, so for this one, we have to remember that the spending multiplier is 1 over the MPS, right? So that is, for us, 1 over 0.2. Now, where did that 0.2 come from? That's because the MPC here, MPC, is 0.8. So therefore, MPS is 0.2. Remember, those two things sum to 1. So that means our spending multiplier is 5. Now, we've got a spending multiplier. We need to close a gap of 500. So 5 times some sort of change in government spending will close a gap of 500. So that means the change in government spending has to equal 100. Now, question part 2. Assume that instead of increasing government spending, the government decides to reduce taxes. Will the reduction in taxes required to achieve full employment be larger or smaller than the government spending change you calculated? And explain. So the short answer is larger. Larger change in taxes because the spending multiplier is larger than the tax multiplier. Now, there's a lot wrapped up conceptually in this, and I would say if you're struggling with understanding this, back in Unit 7 we learned about the spending multiplier and the tax multiplier and why this has to be true, but you would need a larger tax cut than 100 to close a gap of 500. In fact, you would need a tax cut of 125 because the spending multiplier is 5, so the tax multiplier is -4 technically. So you would need to cut taxes by 125 to get that same 500 closing of the gap. Now part D, using a correctly labeled graph of the loanable funds market, show the impact of the increased government spending on the real interest rate in the economy. So we'll go ahead and do part D over here. We have loanable funds. Now loanable funds, you have quantity of loanable funds, so down there, and then you have a real interest rate because this is the loanable funds market. This isn't the money market. It's all of the borrowed money. But it's not all of the money. So we have demand for loanable funds, and we have supply of loanable funds. And now we know there used to be some interest rate equilibrium here, and with the increased government borrowing, there's two different ways that we can model this, right? We can either say supply goes down, or we could say demand goes up if the government borrows. So let's go ahead and write that part out. That if the government borrows, the supply of the loanable funds either decreases, or we would say the demand increases. Now, I'm just going to show it here as a supply decrease, but you could draw it either way. And you need to show the increase in the real interest rate. So we went from I star to I2. And that is important that you have this portion on here. That part's really important. It says show the impact on the real interest rate. On the real interest rate. So if you choose not to do that, then you actually lose one of the 2 points on this problem. For part E, the very last part, and I'm jumping all over on this page, how will the real interest rate affect the growth rate of the economy? Explain. So here we said if the interest rate real goes up, because that's what occurs over here, therefore we would say investment decreases, therefore productive capacity decreases. And that's an important link here, right? This is spending on capital goods, equipment, machines, right? The tools you need to produce. And then the productive capacity of the economy therefore decreases. So we would say growth decreases. So this is an important link chain. You're going to see that question over and over again. So hopefully this helps you understand FRQ Prep 3. I'll see you next time.